This final episode of Purple Bracket had a lot of comedic ironies, and all of them were sort of worse than the previous one. Daya tells Alyssa that she is free to make whatever decision she wants to make about the MBQs, that her choice in who was most consistent she was going to respect, and then got mad at her for not thinking that she was the most consistent in the competition. Michelle went on a long rant once again about Marie Antoinette and was completely off book again. And then Cuckoo is pushed into the merge, where the very first episode is the freaking Snatch Game. This episode was a doozy. There's a lot to break down. Let's buckle in and get going. Y'all, I kind of feel bad for Ginger Minge. Production are the ones that are consistently causing mayhem, confusion, and overall madness. But they are not the ones who are gonna get all the heat and flack and hate. Ginger will. And I don't think that's fair. Ginger is just doing her job. She's clocking in, showing up to her shift, and getting praised for doing her job. And I think, unfortunately, this is not creating a sympathetic win route for her. For someone like Irene, who went home first in her season, did not have any type of Drag Race wind, and then just came in and swooped that first bracket, it feels triumphant because we weren't expecting anything from her. We didn't know what she could give, so seeing her excel genuinely better than everyone in her bracket in an unexpected way, and also be rewarded for that, feels fulfilling for us as an audience, because we're like, hell yes, you did that. When we see people like Georges and Ginger, people who have had a lot of opportunities on Drag Race already, and then come back and then win in things we already know they're good at, it's not as exciting because we already knew they were good at those things. Show us something they haven't done before. And this trajectory they've put her on is kind of setting her up for failure within the fandom. I did not watch Global All-Stars, but I know the idea around it. This feels like the exact same thing they did to Kitty and Queen in order to make people more excited for Alyssa to win. That even though they did not want Alyssa to win, they didn't want Queen or Kitty to win. So who's gonna be the Nelly in this situation? Is it gonna be Irene? Will they get so close to the end that we're rooting for them, but they just barely lose? Now I wanna hammer in, I don't think Ginger's career is in danger. She is not gonna lose out on opportunities or gigs. She just worked with Disney Parks to voice an animatronic, if I remember from her Instagram correctly. Like, the diva is doing good and she is fine, but this is absolutely going to generate lots of hate over the next several years. And I just want to say, I don't care if y'all don't like Ginger. I don't care if y'all don't fuck with Ginger. Don't point any of that energy at her. Point it at producers. We should be very upset at the people who are at the top who write down the concepts and stick up the photos and say, we want that one to win and we want that one to go home first. Get mad at them. Because I'm sure that Ginger thought that all of this hate that was behind her was gonna end after season 7, where they painted her as a villain. She worked really hard to change her image around in All Stars 2 and specifically in 6. And I think she probably came into this one really excited and ready to do the thing. And now she's being hated for being liked by production, which sucks. I think there are plenty of characters who come on Drag Race who create their own problems. I don't think those people deserve hate either, but I can't get mad at people for being upset or not liking their energy. But Ginger's not doing anything. In the cold open this week, Acid's work last week translated into Cynthia getting blasted all the way to second place of all the points. And I did wonder what production was going to do to get around this. They could give a win to Acid and Cuckoo and throw off how they might play points. Then Cuckoo is locked into bracket 2 and maybe production doesn't want that. They could absolutely lock in the two that they do want to be there, Daya and Ginger, and that's been very clear since week 1. Daya's great TV and brings good drama, and Ginger is their golden shower child. And so then it doesn't matter what the queens do with NBQ, at least their chosen two are in round 2. Or they could do something completely unique and surprise me. And so I was absolutely not shocked at all that they decided to break up the teams during Judgment. and reward Ginger her third win because they couldn't risk her getting iced out by MBQ. Ginger and Daya were getting a little steamed with Alyssa right after the credit roll. And in my opinion, they were both a little off base, and Alyssa gathered up those girls quick. It's like Daya heard, I'll give my points to someone who's been consistent, and then didn't consider that anybody else in the room was more consistent than her. She didn't even entertain the notion. And I get it, you have to be super confident, even slightly delulu, to do drag, one, but also to do drag race. You have to be your biggest cheerleader and really believe that you are doing the thing better than anybody else in that room. But to say, Cynthia, you absolutely deserved your point, which is why I gave you one, but also how dare she not giving her point because she said she was gonna give it to the person consistent. Diva, you can't have it both ways. Either Cynthia was consistent or she wasn't. I, on some slight level, understand why Ginger was upset with Alyssa, because Alyssa thought that Denali won that lip sync. A lot of people thought that as well, it wasn't just her. But, I mean this with all shade and respect, she was upset about the opinion of second out Alyssa Hunter. Baby, if someone went home second and you made it to the finale twice, I wouldn't give one single bother about what that girlie thinks of me, especially since she has no wins. You're the top dog. Don't care what the weakest link in the room thinks about you. I'm just saying. The queens this week are once again put into teams. That makes every single challenge this bracket a team challenge. Woof. And these are teams of 2 in a K9 themed retooling of The Bitchler, which I hated. Why did this have to be anthropomorphic? Cynthia choosing to go in a religious route was not only insane, but also hilarious. I totally understood this virginal character who loved God and Jesus and Mother Mary, but then found a man that she wanted to ride until Sunday Mass, and then confess about it. Promised never to do it again until she did it one more time. I thought it was very funny and I understood the character as a Latino. This was realistically, I think, her week if she looked better on the runway. Acid was quite funny in my opinion, looking like a dominatrix version of Martha May Whovier. I know that she was going for Betty Page, but I was getting high horror of Whoville. I was half expecting her to walk in and be like, this however is new. I don't think the two of them did very much with their scene, but at the same time, there wasn't really anything to do. A park date with no real props when one group had a hot tub and another group had drinks and spaghetti. What are you supposed to volley off of in the room? Plus, they didn't really have a lot of jokes set up from their date. I think they had personal chemistry, but their character synergy was just a little off. I don't blame them necessarily, I blame the script. Because I think when you have an open environment like that, I think they want you to act a fool and be crazy, and that is cringe. It's sort of the exact problem that Trixie and Milk had. They had nothing to interact with, where Kennedy had this entire set that she could squeeze lotion on Jeffree. Chi-Chi and were able to sit in that hot tub and go down and make jokes about his package. And so I think this one had kind of the same structural problems, is that their group just didn't have anything to volley with. I don't know if anyone could have done excellently in that scene. Alyssa Hunter looked batshit crazy. I don't understand how Ginger did not step in and stop her. Like, hey doll, this look is bananas. Let's go ahead and just wipe it off. Let's start over again. We'll regroup. And we'll come back in like 20 minutes, okay? But who knows, maybe she did, and honestly, if I was Alyssa, I wouldn't listen to Ginger, of all people, about makeup tips. So who knows, maybe she did get stopped, and maybe she just went along with it anyway. But she looked nuts. And I did not like her character at all. Alyssa's constant improvisational problem is that she gets locked into her character and can't break away from that. Oh, but at all. She attaches herself to these 2 or 3 buzzwords and then becomes immovable about them. She heard frisky slut with a lot of kids and stayed there, where a lot of those other queens branched out from that character sheet. Being frisky can be really physical if you let it be. You could leave the pups at the front door and walk away from them like, mommy's got a date, bye. Be the deadbeat mom. Refer to them as 1, 2, 3, 7, and 9. And then ask him if he wants to make pup number 16. Bring up all the exes and brag about what they did. Try to get him to one-up them. And then just really focus on how you don't give a crap about your kids. That they're just a tax write-off. There's so many places you could go with that, but Alyssa doesn't have the tools in her belt to be able to improv that way. That's really complex character work for someone who doesn't even have basics down. And on top of it, Alyssa's fighting English. Alyssa, much like other ESL queens, is probably doing the joke in her native language and then translate it to English. So I think she was at a disadvantage with this character. I think realistically, there's nobody she could have done from this list. I think Alyssa probably would have done better in Murder on the Dance Floor. That character study was a lot easier to do, but it was volleying with Rue, and I don't think Rue would have wanted to work with Alyssa. All tea. Ginger was very funny, as expected, but I didn't think she did anything we hadn't seen from her before. Her dog character was basically exactly what she did for Whatever Happened to Merle Ginsburg. It was the same voice, same character study. I think the two of them had great props, and Ginger was able to make good use of them, messing around with the beverage like she did as Adele in Snatch Game, dipping the food into it and eating it. That's Ginger's specialty move on Drag Race, dipping one food into some mystery liquid and snacking on it. I think she tried really hard to keep roping Alyssa back into the scene with her, but unfortunately, Alyssa Hunter is from Planet Tammy, and when she gets on Drag Race, she's just in her own orbit, and she was there the entire sketch. Denali and Daya were my breakouts of this entire scene. I love that they took their characters, built upon them, and then were not married to the original concept. And that allowed them to create depth, which I liked. See, in improv, you want to be able to keep going, scaling up with things that make sense for your character. No one is a flat, one-dimensional person, and your character shouldn't be either. So you have to create nuance, highlights, lowlights, shading to make your character fully fleshed out so that they feel real. Denali was meant to be a needy, emotional dog, so she chose to expand on that and attached herself to anyone who gave her even a slight bit of attention in the scene, even if it was her scene partner. I thought her choice of accent was funny, and her free use of UK slang and intermixing that through her dialogue showed to me that she studied before she got there and how to intermix these words properly into a scene. Daya was meant to be a snob who thinks that her shit doesn't stink. We have seen this character on Drag Race many a time, and it gets really boring. So she leaned into the know-it-all attitude, but didn't make that buzzword her entire challenge makeup. They both went slightly off book, but I think it made sense for their characters, and they worked really well with each other. I like that they decided to be characters who would explore bisexuality. That was fun and an interesting take on those characters that Chi-Chi and were supposed to be playing in All Stars 3. Especially getting the hot tub scene, it felt very reminiscent of that exact sketch. And so if in some part of their brain they thought, let's riff off of that, that was also genius. I like that they were coordinated, they were following each other's words, finishing each other's sentences. They did the best, they had the best scene chemistry, as well as the best overall chemistry, in my opinion. The runway prompt was paper dolls, and I will be honest, I wasn't terribly inspired by this prompt. The looks were fun, but none of them made me go, ooh! I like the color and construction of what Alyssa did. It reminded me of paper mache projects, but as an adult would do them. It was number 4 for me in the lineup. Ginger did a Shakespearean look, which was really cute when you take in the hair and the pearls and the styling into consideration. It wasn't terribly eye-catching because unfortunately the stage lights washed it all the way out. And I'll be honest, as soon as I saw it, I flashed to, watch out sisters, I'm the real prima donna. Head coach is gonna be me, Lucretia Criana. Shakespeare. And I mean, not to be all Drag Race conspiracy theory board, but Ginger doing basically Merle Ginsburg in a challenge where she got to do her Adele movements. And then the runway was paper, which they also did in season 7. And Ginger did Lil' Kim, I think. And then had a Shakespearean runway. It was like season 7. The conspiracy theory board was going crazy this week in my brain. Anyway, it was number 5 for me. Denali blew me away. I loved this look so much, how celebratory of her culture it was. It was eye-catching. It was jaw-dropping. This was my number 1. Daya was very high fashion down. It definitely didn't look like paper, which I responded well to. She transformed the materials well, in my opinion, and transformed it into something unrecognizable by going with a scale effect. It was number 3 for me. Normally I would talk about these a lot more, but again, I wasn't terribly inspired by this runway. Acid Betty was doing a true Marie Antoinette look, and I gotta say, this rocked my world. It was sort of Small World doll in Disneyland to me, and I loved the back of it. That was really cool. This was my number 2. And then Cynthia, before coming to Drag Race, stopped by Target, went to the party aisle, spent about $50 worth of paper ornaments and baubles and decorations, stapled them to a dress and went, oh, I can't. This was a chop. It was number 6 for me. Boots nasty. This would have been her win week if she did not look like a party supply explosion. And someone should have been a friend back there. So Michelle then does a PSA about how she does not understand Marie Antoinette looks. It starts and originates with Ginger. Joella really pissed her off, girl. So let's do some light history and geography, shall we? William Shakespeare's popularity spike was in the 1590s. In Southwark, London, England. Marie Antoinette, on a completely different landmass, ruled deep into the 1790s. So folks, that is 2 landmasses, one in England and one in France. And mathematically, those are 200 years apart. So Michelle's saying, or things of that ilk, meaning like this or that, is not only completely off topic, but completely non sequitur. That would be like Michelle saying stop doing an American history look if someone came out and did a Betsy Ross look, and if someone else was doing a Monica Lewinsky look. They're hundreds of years apart. I really wish that someone would have just gotten in Michelle's earpiece and said, Michelle, stop, please. We already told you that those are not the same region or timelines. Please, Michelle. It's like embarrassing at this point. Thank you for coming to history and geography class. There will be a test. So let's get into the critiques and my thoughts on team judgment. Team judgment is convenient until it's not. It is important until it's not. A team improv challenge is made or broken by your partner. And on Drag Race, when they want to make sure that you know that you caused your teammate to fail, they include that in the narrative. If they want it to be known that you steamrolled your partner, they make it known, whether that was in a positive or a negative way. You were just so good and we couldn't stop paying attention to you. Or, you were just so strong that you made your partner look bad and you should have helped them. You flopped because you were just so bad and you couldn't keep up. You flopped because your partner didn't give you any opportunities to be good. It really depends on what narrative they're trying to push. Ginger was trying to get Alyssa back in the moment with her and get her to volley, but Alyssa was in her own universe. And she absolutely failed that challenge on her own, where Ginger just kept going and didn't allow Alyssa to drag her down into the depths. So Ginger did well in my opinion, but did she do anything we hadn't already seen before? I don't think so. And I also think a boozy character is something that she could do. I would have liked to have seen her as a dominatrix. I think that would have shown a different side of her that we haven't seen of Ginger. Plus, just imagining her in fetish gear, yelling at someone to sit or stay or roll over would have been hilarious and would have been something we had not seen of Ginger before. In my opinion, Denali and Daya worked the best with each other, circumvented expectations, and exceeded what I thought they could do together. And their looks on the runway were both genuinely spectacular. I don't think mathematically there was anything they could have done in order to stop Cuckoo from going to next round. Like literally nothing. In a scenario where they put Denali and Daya in the top 2, Daya wins the lip sync and Ginger and Cuckoo are both tied at 6 points. Ginger has her 6 points and Cuckoo ends up with 6 because of MBQ. All 3 of them are locked in for the finale no matter what. There's nothing mathematically that they could have done other than secure for sure that Ginger's going there just in case. anything happen where the girls decided to flip and give their points to Denali for some reason. And it makes sense to allow Cuckoo to go to the next round because someone is going to go home in the Snatch game, and it's not gonna be Georges. Because let's be so real with ourselves, Georges is going to bomb the Snatch game just like she bombed the last two that she was in. And the most likely to lose a lip sync against Georges would be Cynthia. From the next bracket, Irene could be amazing. Bosco could be amazing. She's had years to cook and she's very funny. Aja could go any different way. Lydia could go a lot of different ways based off of her original Snatch game. Mistress will be Mistress in a cosplay. Ginger is likely winning the Snatch game. And Daya could go any different way. But guaranteed, Georges will do bad in the Snatch game. And they need someone else who will also do bad in the Snatch game. It makes sense to allow Cynthia to move on so that they can use her to save Georges next week. And the producers are likely thinking about that. It would be dumb to think differently. So Cuckoo is sort of their North Star that they can use to chop to preserve Rue's favorite twink, Georges. So really, they got the last laugh in the end, despite Acid pushing really hard to give Cynthia a fighting chance. I'm assuming that the very last challenge before the lip sync SmackDown is gonna be a ball since we haven't had one this season, and Ginger could go any different way in that. And so if in some chance that Cynthia makes it through Snatch Game somehow, she would definitely go home during the ball, and she would definitely go home early in a lip sync SmackDown. So it's an easy person to keep around in the competition in order to snipe them out competitively. I'm also predicting that in round 2, whatever that last challenge is before the SmackDown, they're going to give Ginger a stumble moment, put her in the bottom, and try to do that thing that they always do where they say, look, the person who was front running did bad, maybe they'll go home. JK, they're gonna win the whole thing. But after all of this vitriol about Ginger right now, I feel like she might be getting the Kitty and Queen edit. All in all, I am really glad that we get to see Bosco, Irene, and Aja again next week. I'm not really looking forward to the 3-piece bathing suit collection that we're going to see from Georges. And I already know that Mistress is gonna be fighting with Ginger because she is going to see her walk in that room and know exactly what the tea is. And I'm sad that Cynthia is probably going to be the first one to get eliminated because Acid was really championing for her. And I want to say this is not based on anything spoilery. I just remember Cynthia's Snatch Game performance and how rotten that was. And I don't have any high expectations that she's going to do better this time. So what do you think about this episode? And are you excited for round 2? Or are you just ready for it to be over, girl? Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you would like to support the channel in a different way, you can join the Extravaganza Extra membership program. You can watch a couple of my posted videos a few days earlier than the general public gets to. Thank you for watching this week, and I will see y'all on the flip.